Hello, guys. I just wanted to share with you some baby milestones. I know a lot of the little ones in the group are really starting to grow and do some new moves, and I just wanted to kind of cover some basic baby milestones for you guys. So milestones are a beautiful thing. Watching your child grow is one of the most exciting parts of being a parent, especially in early months when it seems that every day brings something new. Knowing what to expect from your child will help you in many ways. Understanding your child's milestones can be a beneficial part of their development, like play or safety. So with play, kind of knowing what to expect can anticipate how you can play with them to build their strength and development. And then when it comes to safety, when you know their milestones, then you know that once they're starting to scoot and move and being able to grab some new things, it's starting to get to that time of doing some baby proofing, right? So safety is in there too. Children develop skills in several different areas. So we're looking at gross motor, fine motor, language, social, and cognitive. Gross motor, these are movements using your body's large muscles and include sitting, standing, walking, running, keeping balance, and changing positions. When we're talking about fine motor, these skills are using the small muscles in the hands and the fingers. Fine motor skills include using hands to eat, draw, dress, play, and write. They develop over time and also involve hand-eye coordination. So whenever I think about fine motor skills, I always think about when babies get into, when they're starting to sit up in their high chair and they're able to pinch those peas and or little pieces that you chop up for them, and it's so cute. So language, of course, would be speaking, using body language and gestures, and understanding what others say. Social would be connecting and having relationships with others, cooperating and responding to others' feelings. So when they start being able to recognize expressions on your face, they almost show empathy and they respond to your feelings. Cognitive, so these are thinking skills, learning, understanding, when they start problem solving and reasoning and remembering. So at the end of 3 months, most infants can, so it's different for everybody, but when we're looking at the end of 3 months, gross motor, they can roll from front to back. They start controlling head and neck movement when sitting, and that's really important when they are old enough to hold their heads up when you start feeding, but that's a little bit later on. Raising their head and chest when they're lying on their stomach. So we're always talking about the benefits of tummy time, and they're building up those muscles, super important. So when they stretch out and kick their legs when they're laying on their stomach or their back, push down on their legs when feet are on a firm surface. So that's actually a way that you can kind of play with them and build up their leg muscles. So you can actually, if you place your hands on the bottom of their feet, you can feel the resistance and their strength of pushing your hands. That's a good exercise. Fine motor skills, so bring their hands together, open and shut their hands, bring their hands to their mouth, and take swipes at a hanging object. So I think about those tummy time toys. Well, first you start them on their back, or you could do it with tummy time, and they're looking up at some toys or things that hang, and they start taking swipes, and they want to kind of start reaching for those objects. Social language. So smile when you smile and on their own. Be expressive and communicate with their face and body. Copy some body movement and facial expressions, so that's a way that you can kind of play with them too. When you're just gazing at them and you're doing eye-to-eye contact, it's always fun. I don't know if you guys have ever tried just smiling, making your face an O, and seeing if they kind of respond back to trying to copy your face. So cognitive would be watch faces closely. They follow moving objects, so that's a good time that you can play if you hold the toy yourself and you kind of trace in front of their face and see if their eyes follow, so they start following moving objects. Recognizing objects and people that they know. So lots of things can happen in between 3 and 8 months. So that's why we say by the end of 8 months, most infants can do this. So for gross motor, you're looking at roll both ways, so from front to back. Starting to sit up on their own, they do that in their own kind of spurts and in their own way, kind of holding their bodies up eventually with their hands. Support their whole weight on their legs and control upper body and arms. For fine motor, hold and shake a hand toy. Move an object, so moving that hand toy from hand to hand, and use their hands to explore an object. So when they've got both hands on it and they're fixated on this object and they almost go cross-eyed, it's super cute. Social and language, you see reach for a person that they know, smile at themselves in the mirror. So several months ago, we were playing with mirror play and scarf play. That was always fun, and watch how babies start responding to mirror play. Respond when others express emotion. Before my daughter can even talk, I remember her responding almost in an empathetic way if she can see that another baby was sad, or even if you could see it on somebody else's face, she would actually start responding to those expressed emotions. And copying speech sounds. Ma, 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 da, 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 and they start playing and babble with their mouth. Cognitive, so tracking a moving object and finding one that is particularly hidden. So we're looking at the object permanence. Explore with hands and mouth. Struggle to get objects that are out of reach. Look from one object to another and watch a falling object. So by the end of 12 to 14 months, most infants can, with gross motor skill, reach a sitting position without any help, crawling on their hands and knees and scooting around on their bum. I always like watching how different babies have their own kind of unique way of crawling and getting themselves from point A to point B when they're learning that, where your normal army crawl, or if they have one leg up and they start scooting their butt, it's so cute. So get from a sitting to crawling or prone on their stomach position. Pulling up to a standing position, so when they start using the objects around them, which is usually like a coffee table or a couch, to kind of start pulling themselves up, using those leg muscles and putting themselves in a standing position, which goes into cruising and holding onto furniture. Stand briefly without support. So it's prime time for parental heart attacks. Just kidding. So when you're walking around with an adult hand and able to take 2 or 3 steps on their own, you can start doing it when they hold onto your fingers and kind of start making steps with them. So got to watch out for this one. They can start to climb stairs with help. So it's a good exercise if you have stairs in your home, but you want to make sure that you're right behind them, you're guiding them, you're right there. Otherwise, we're looking at that time for baby gates. Fine motor, so finger feed using the thumb and the forefinger, so the pincher grasp, like those cute peas I was talking about earlier. Put objects into a container and take them out again, which is an awesome game. I don't know if you guys ever seen, putting toys into an old diaper wipes container. And they're able to kind of get these objects. They know that they're in there and grab them themselves. Releasing objects voluntarily. Poke with an index finger. Being able to push a toy. Bring begin to drink with a cup, scribble with a crayon, begin to use a spoon. Looking into social and language skills, they start being shy or anxious with strangers. So my daughter was also always super social. One day we were at the Dollar Tree and she played strange with this man. It was the first time out of nowhere. She never did it again. It's always very kind of spontaneous, but it does come eventually with playing strange, being shy or anxious with strangers. Copy during play. Have favorite toys and favorite people. They start to test limits and to actions and behaviors. That's all part of the learning curve. Putting out an arm or a leg to help when being dressed. Taking off socks, prime time when they were losing all those socks. Come when called, so they start to respond to name. They say mama, dada, with at least one other word with a meaning. Communicate, begin to communicate without that need of crying to communicate. Stop an action they know when you're saying no. Explore objects in different ways, so shaking, banging, throwing, dropping. We're getting into the cognitive. Know the names of familiar objects. Respond to music. That's always my favorite too, is the natural way that babies and with infants going into toddlers, they naturally respond to music and they make up their own groove. So we don't teach them to dance. Dancing comes naturally to them, and I love watching that. And begin to explore cause and effect. So always remember, guys, that just like us, babies do things on their own time and at their own pace. Okay, so every baby is different. So it's always best to remember to not to compare them with other children, because they're going to be going through these development stages and milestones at different times. If you have any questions or concerns about your child's development, of course, never be afraid to ask your doctor or public health nurse. And you guys can always reach out to us if you need any help with that. So thank you so much, guys, for listening to that. I hope that kind of helps you, give you an idea of what to kind of look out for of your next baby milestones. And we will talk to you soon.